FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. I mentioned a couple weeks ago I went to an event that our partner Jason Hartman was holding in Orlando. I was blown away by it. We've been trying to connect to discuss it. Also, Jason and I wanted to discuss what's going to happen with the renminbi, with the yuan, now becoming part of the IMF's SDR, aka special drawing rights. So Jason, I tell you what, you knocked it out of the ballpark with that event, and I just can't say enough good things about it. I was really blown away.
Well, thank you, Kerry. Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you there, and thank you for introducing me at the event. And I know a lot of your FSN listeners attended as well, and that was our Orlando Creating Wealth conference and property tour. So we did a lot of education, 1.5 days of education and a half day of touring properties and looking around, and we saw some good deals and good investments. And yeah, it was great. It was really fun. You know, it's amazing how sophisticated your listeners are. I just love it. I love dealing with people who understand this stuff because, you know, in the intro just a moment ago, you talk about SDRs, and, you know, on most shows, if you said special drawing rights and SDRs, people would say, what the heck is that? That's boring. I don't get it. But your listeners actually probably understand that stuff, or at least have a keen interest in it. So that's great. Yeah.
It's all going according to plan. I mean, the globalists want one world currency. And that's what they want. And
yes.
And whether they get it or not, bringing China on board certainly increases the importance of the yuan/renminbi. I never know what to call the thing.
No question about it. It does increase their position in the world. There's absolutely no question about it. And you know, in looking at this one world government, one world currency, all of this, you know, stuff, when you get into the more conspiratorial thoughts and talk about you know, the Bilderberg Group and, you know, whoever really runs the world, nobody really knows except them. But you know, it's this move toward cashlessness is disconcerting to me, because that, you know, that's a totalitarian's dream. One of my show guests, Nick Giambruno, who's been on a couple of times, he works for Doug Casey's organization. He just did an article, and it was aptly entitled, "The World's First Cashless Society is Here, a Totalitarian's Dream Come True." And, you know, citing all of these countries that are really trying to minimize cash, because look at it, Kerry. Cash is a form of freedom. It's a form of freedom of expression because it allows people to engage in the economy without it being traceable. So as governments crack down on cash, it's just another NSA type of move. It's like monitoring our phone conversations and our emails and our text messages and our Skype accounts, you know, monitoring our economic transactions. It's another invasion of privacy and another control grab.
You know, it's funny that you bring this up, because I actually, not to brag, but I wrote about this almost 2 years ago. It was in March of 2014. And what I said was, if you look at the money in your wallet, you look at the age of it, all right, the stuff is garbage. I mean, it's amazing. It's wearing out. Supposedly, they're printing up billions of new notes. They're not bills, they're notes, because they're evidence of Federal Reserve's indebtedness. Okay. But they're printing up this money. But where is it? You hardly ever. You used to go to the ATM, you would get fresh notes out of that machine. Fresh, you know, fresh from the press, never in circulation. Now you get this money and it is crap, Jason. And
yeah.
I believe I called it Operation Dirty Money. Is part of a deliberate act by the powers that be to sour you on cash. And it's working. Only 7%, Jason, approximately, of the transactions that take place in society now take place in cash. And now, look, Starbucks has an app, so you can tip the barista with the app. Look, I guesstimate that in 15,000 Starbucks, roughly $1.5 billion in cash goes through there a year in the tip jar. All right. Is the government getting its fair share of it?
No, of course not. Yeah.
But when it's on an app, guess what?
They can trace it all and track it and tax it. Yeah. No, it's good for a lot of reasons. And arguably, Sweden is the first cashless country in the world because almost no transactions there are done in cash. They're credit cards, they're electronic. And when you look around the world, this article cites several really interesting examples. Italy made cash transactions over 1,000 euros illegal. So literally, you can't buy a cheap car in Italy with cash or a nice piece of furniture. It's illegal to use cash for over 1,000 euros, which is what, about $1,200, $1,300? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Switzerland has proposed banning cash payments in excess of 100,000 francs. I don't know the conversion on that, but it's probably not much. Russia banned cash transactions over $10,000. They had to keep it higher because they got more mafia there, right? Spain has banned cash transactions over. The government is the mafia, So Spain has banned cash transactions over 2,500 euros. Mexico made cash payments of more than 200,000 pesos illegal. Uruguay banned transactions over $500,000 in cash. And France made transactions over 1,000 euros illegal, and that's down from the prior limit of 3,000 euros. There is a concerted effort, a global war on cash. And, most people don't even notice this stuff because it doesn't affect them until, that rare occasion when they try to make a purchase and maybe they broke the law and didn't even know it. And suddenly, they're hauled in and strung up for, money laundering or whatever the crime is called. It's unbelievable.
This is insanity. And, the global currency of the SDR, Rickards has been saying it for years that the thing is going to blow up. And before you know it, we're going to be on the SDR standard. Each country will keep its currency intact, but it'll all be pegged to the SDR. And, it's just a maneuver to try to keep the fiat scheme going a little bit longer. Will it work? I mean, we have to have money. Without an effective medium of exchange, society will cease to function. And the dollar is, while it might be king and, we have the defense industrial complex keeping it that way, mistakes happen, It's a network that's been slapped together, the whole international economic system, money transfer system. It's an ad hoc system that's been thrown together. And, hey, it could break. And if it breaks...
It could. So, Kerry, let me ask you, what do you think would happen if everything is pegged to the SDR? Would that be inflationary? Would it be deflationary? Or would it just be the same as it is now? I mean, the lead currency would have to be the dollar in terms of setting that value. But what happen? So say we get to that point where we've got to peg everything to the SDR and the powers that be do, then what happens then? It's a really enviable position the U.S. has been in. And so maybe that means the inflation would start really showing up to the American. Right now it shows up around the world, but not to the Americans so much. It's very moderate here. What do you think would happen?
Well,
SDR peg.
If it's pegged to the SDR, but who controls the central bank of all central banks?
Well, the Rothschild family.
But who stops them from printing up all the currency in the world that they want? There's nothing to stop them. This is
nobody.
Really bad. They're extra sovereign. They're outside every country and they just do as they please. You think central bankers do as they please now? Once they have a global currency and they can just print up obscene amounts, even more than what the individual countries do now. They are somewhat constrained, individual countries. There are limits on what they can do, but when there's a super national authority that can just print and print and print, God help us,
Yeah, right. But God help you. I mean, what I've said on your show before is I talk about the virtues of income property investing. You own commodities because that's really what you're buying, a set of packaged commodities. When you buy a house or an apartment building, you've got copper wire, you've got glass, you've got steel, you've got lumber, you've got concrete, petroleum products, all these commodities which have intrinsic real value. Okay. Mm-hmm. They don't depend on some currency and fiat money scheme. Okay. They have intrinsic universal value. Everybody needs them. Okay. So you do that and you finance it with this very long, 3-decade long, very, very cheap fixed rate debt. And then you take that debt and you outsource it to your tenant. You don't even pay your own debts. Beautiful, beautiful program.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we have that, I mean, philosophically and morally, I would not hope for inflation, but, to line my own greedy pocket, heck, it'd be really good for me and all my clients.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, either way, it's going to be good for them. We've talked about this many times, and it's just these guys holding on to power, trying to keep this old system going. It's like, what it's like, and I'm actually going to Cuba. I'm going to Havana next week. It's the same way they keep those cars from the 1950s going. I mean, those cars should have been scrapped 40 years ago, but those cars are still running, or at least the shell is there.
But Kerry, that's the virtue of communism. You get classic cars.
Yeah. Classic cars that are held together with chewing gum and
duct tape. Don't forget the duct tape.
I mean, you look at the engines. The engines have been replaced. The transmissions. Now it's really like a caricature of the country, those vehicles, and I can hardly wait
it really
to
is.
check them out.
It's interesting. Yeah, and I've been to Cuba before, so I know what it's like. It's fascinating. It's like going back in time to 1959. It's like they froze the place basically. It's a time warp. But what's interesting? I want to recommend a show to your listeners. You may already watch the show, but it's called The Man in High Castle, and it's on Amazon Prime, and it's a really interesting TV series, and it's made by Amazon Studios, and it's a hypothesis of how the world would have turned out if the U.S. lost World War II.
Oh yeah,
and it's all set in 1962, where the Nazis run the eastern part of the country and the Japanese run the western part. It's really fascinating. And it's just, there's a great meme that floats around social media, and it shows a picture of, totalitarian soldiers holding a gun to people and forcing them to do things, pressing them. And it says, socialism, ideas so good, you have to be forced to accept them.
Ain't that the truth? And, you're absolutely right about it. Hey, there's another great show that you have to watch if you're not watching it already, Jason, called Breakthrough.
What is it?
Breakthrough. It's by Ron Howard, and it's basically all about life extending therapies and treatments. Now,
oh yeah. No, I know that show. So that's interesting. And doesn't Morgan Freeman narrate some of those? He's a limousine liberal for you, Morgan Freeman.
Well, hey, doesn't make him a totally brain dead person.
No,
same with Ron Howard. But I got to tell you this: like, I take metformin because pre-diabetic. I had type 2, but I lost all the weight, became pre-diabetic. But I still take it. The doctor says I should. Supposedly, metformin is like the greatest life-extending drug out there.
Right. I know. I just did a blog post about that. It's fascinating, these off-label uses, and they're doing a 6-year study with just a massive number of people, and a double-blind placebo on that. And so, by 2021, we're going to really know.
Yeah, well, you know what? We already do know, because they did a meta study of 70,000 people that had type 2 diabetes and took metformin, and then they compared them against a randomized section of the population who was healthy, didn't take any metformin. Now, these are diabetics, pre-diabetics, and people with type 2 diabetes lasted like 17% longer than the people that weren't taking metformin. These are people who are sick. I mean, that is crazy. And,
right.
I'd prefer not to be taking this stuff. But then again, if it turns out it gives me a few years and they're good years, why not? But if you fight aging, then all the other diseases don't make any difference because they're almost all related to aging. Once you live past a certain point, you hit a certain age, basically all those diseases have to do with aging.
Yep, I hear you. We it's been fascinating. I've got about 50 episodes now on my podcast, The Longevity and Biohacking Show, and it has been fascinating to interview some of the world's leading longevity researchers. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I don't only host a real estate investing podcast, and that's the Creating Wealth Show, where we talk about investing and economics and monetary stuff like I talk about with Kerry, but the Longevity and Biohacking Show, it's ultimately, Kerry, as bad as the central bankers and the governments are trying to screw stuff up, it is an amazing time to be alive at the same time. So
I totally agree with you. It's the best time ever to be alive. Although I think the roaring 20s could have been fun, the gay 90s, those were times where life was a bit simpler and the American dream was alive and it was easier. But they were followed up by major panics and major depressions. So that's just the way things are. But if you could pick your times in history, this is a great one to be. And we just have to see. But hey, so getting back to Orlando, so we saw, how many houses did we look at? I mean,
I don't know. I think we looked at about probably 10, 11 properties, maybe something like that. And it was a great event. I'm glad you were there. And, I think a lot of your listeners enjoyed it too. So I'm glad they came along as well.
Yeah. Well, I think what you do is really amazing. And the educational part of it really was great because you learn some concepts and then you go right out in the field and apply them. And there's just not a lot of places where that takes place, Jason.
Hey, Kerry, you know what? We did not talk about this before, but you just made me think of it. Our Meet the Masters event is coming up pretty darn soon in early January. You've been to that event last year. And why don't we offer a nice little discount to your listeners?
Oh, hey, that would be great.
Okay. Let's do that. It's really our, we did a Cyber Monday or Black Friday promotion. It's almost sold out. But let's just do, go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz, Lutz. We have not even set this page up yet, but by the time you listen to it, we'll have it done. And you can get a promo code to get, I think we can do that like $200 off, probably $100 or $200 off. I'm honestly not sure. I just have to find out what that promotion is, but you'll get a nice discount. It'll be 20-30% off probably. Okay. And that's in San Diego, in La Jolla, California, San Diego area, and it's in January, okay? It's the second weekend of January, so it'll be an awesome event. We fly in experts from all over the country, our teams, our property managers, our local market specialists. We've got Garrett Sutton, the author of multiple Rich Dad, Poor Dad books. He's the keynote speaker on Saturday, and he'll be talking about asset protection and a bunch of great topics. So, Kerry, you attended it last January. What did you think?
I loved it. I saw a lot of you out there too. It was just a great event that really, really focuses you and gives you a plan and gives you a way to accomplish your financial goals. I mean, what's better than that? And honestly, you practically give the thing away.
Yeah. The nice thing is we are in the business of actual real estate. So unlike all these other gurus out there that charge you $40,000 for a coaching program, our stuff is almost free. I mean, it's so cheap. The podcast is free. Our events are nominal fees. We don't charge a lot for them because, we're in the real estate business. That's how we make our money. So education, you get it almost free with us. So come out and join us for that. jasonhartman.com/LUTZ for Lutz. Right. jasonhartman.com/Lutz. And we'll get you a nice discount.
Sounds great. And I will see you all there. I highly recommend it. And Jason, hey, thanks for being on. I just wanted to touch base with you. And hey, we covered some other interesting things. So anyways, till next time, you be well.
We sure did. Happy investing to you and your listeners, Kerry.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.